You listen to me. You get that truck loaded up at the store by the end of the week, or you're fired. You understand? Oh, great. Where am I? I'll give you $5 to pump my gas.
Nah, I'll do it for 10.
Punk. Are you finished, smart guy?
All done, Your Grace.
Did you have a good day, ma'am?
No, I did not. When you deal with idiots all day. Oh, Maria, this tea is cold. Oh, like I said, idiots! Maria, I am so sorry. I was such a wretch to treat you so badly.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm John Dees, pastor of Cross Point Church, and thank you so much for joining with us today. I hope you're having a good day in the Lord, and thank God for all of His wonderful blessings. Aren't we thankful? Aren't we grateful? Today, I have a real treat to introduce to you a great friend of mine, a wonderful part of our church, and a wonderful part of this community is Greg Fortier, and he's going to come and talk to us today, and I'm going to talk with him and share with him. Retired colonel of the United States military, and thank God for folks like him who make it safe for all the rest of us. And what's the old statement? Eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, or the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And we're so thankful to have Greg with us today. Greg, I just was thinking about you when I thought about who to have on today. And you got such a great spirit about you. You've got an incredible family, and you had this wonderful military career. You went to West Point. Let me just start out with just asking, give us one or two people that in your younger life just had a big impact in your life, because obviously somebody did.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. And first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
I think if you talk about a couple people, the first one, a family member that comes to mind is my grandmother. So, just a 4'9" little French woman from Connecticut who had tremendous amount of fire and passion, loved the Lord. Always at church, always inspiring me to enhance my relationship with the Lord as well.
Wow.
Teaching me tremendous work ethic and always there for whatever I needed at any given time. Could be found at every one of my sporting events, soccer games, basketball games, baseball games, the like. Just a tremendous lady, and miss her every day. She passed several years ago, 17 years ago, but miss her every day. Learned a lot of things from her. And the other was a baseball coach of mine. His name was Mike Glowa, and we lost him too young at the age of 52 due to some cancer. But just a man who couldn't have children of his own, but poured every ounce of everything he had into the kids of our community and the baseball program of our community, and had the pleasure to play for him, to coach with him, and just a great friend.
Well, what was your forte in baseball?
Yeah, so I was the guy who was always there first and always departed the field last. I was a scrappy player, a defensive player, a decent offensive player. Played the middle infield and pitched, and just loved being out there with my teammates and competing.
I would have been a baseball player, but I can't throw and I can't hit, and so that makes it kind of tough.
That's
but
right.
So where did the dream come of you entering West Point? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very, very small town in Connecticut, just a couple thousand folks, and we went on a field trip in 7th grade. My teacher at the time had a daughter up at West Point. I didn't know much about it, but we went on a field trip in 7th grade up there, and I realized it was a very seminal moment, and it was a moment just watching the cadets there in formation, thinking, I think this is where God wants me to be, and I'm going to try to dedicate my next 5 years of school to try to build a good enough resume to be competitive, to be selected. Because my family didn't have a lot of money growing up, we didn't have a lot of opportunity.
Right.
But that was a great place for me, and I thought if I could just have a chance to get there, I could make the most of it.
This past Sunday, Joel Carwile shared a fantastic message on Memorial Day.
Yeah,
and of course, it's I'll always be grateful to a man that was foundational in our church. Wonderful guy named Mike Nevin, who was a lieutenant colonel himself, and he understood what I was saying, and for years I would on Memorial Day Sunday I would just say, well, everybody have a happy Memorial Day tomorrow, and we all know what it meant. I mean, eat hot dogs and go to the swimming pool or whatever. But Mike took me aside one day, and he said, John, you always do honor our military. He said, but happy Memorial Day is not quite what you need to say. And he just reminded me of the incredible price that men paid.
absolutely.
And of course, I thought this past Sunday was well done by Pastor Joel. And pictures of Arlington and all those places like that.
So a couple powerful moments for me. First, every Memorial Day, I think of a friend of mine named Steve Reich, who was a tremendous baseball player in Connecticut, a pitcher. He was 3 years ahead of me at West Point, and he was instrumental in allowing me the opportunity to play baseball up there while I was a freshman. He was a senior. He was so good that he was drafted out of West Point back in the 92, 93 timeframe. There was challenges with folks getting drafted and not honoring their commitments. So he knew he only had a summer to play before he had to report for flight school. He played for the Baltimore Orioles minor league team that summer. He played in the Pan Am Games. He was a left-handed pitcher. He was a tremendous player. And then he left baseball and went and served. And he had a tremendous career as an aviator, went into Special Operations Forces. And for all those that have seen the movie or read the book Lone Survivor, he was the pilot in the Chinook that was shot down and killed with his 18 SEALs in the back. So remember Steve every Memorial Day, and remember certainly his family up in Connecticut. So the other memory that will always live with me is when I was stationed up in D.C. in the Pentagon. We had the opportunity to insert the flags at Arlington. And,
wow!
So just a 36 to 48 hour endeavor of thousands of soldiers, just putting one flag by each headstone. In Arlington, and then even more powerful, had the opportunity to run through Arlington in the early morning quiet without a single sound, just the peace and the solitude and reflection and prayer for those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us.
Well, see, it's people like you. I mean, people like you. I've had several times just sit and talk to you.
Yeah.
You're a dedicated man. You're a dedicated American, and I just thank God for people like yourself. The grace of God, number one, but folks like yourself that keep our country free, and we have a lot of threats in this world today, and almost, well, I guess at the beginning of World War II we were completely stunned by the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
and we just did our part, right? Our part was in my period, and it's a young man's game for sure. Serving and fighting and keeping preserving our freedom. But our generation and my class, the class of 1996, was a class that saw 9/11, and saw 9/11 at a time where we were 5-6 years into service, which was fantastic because we had honed our craft and we were ready to fight, and we did what was asked of us. And now it's time to pass to the next generation and the next, just like we picked up the mantle from the courageous Vietnam vets and everybody that's come before us.
Amen. That's a good thing. And well, now you got two beautiful girls.
I do.
You got sweet Angela as your wife, and then your two beautiful daughters. And tell me a couple of things you like to try to build into them.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's the relationship with the Lord, right? And that's as critical as anything. It's the most important thing. It's got to start there, and that's the foundation. As you build that relationship, I think it's easier for young kids, especially girls, and to learn and to understand the gifts that they've been given and the gifts that God's bestowed upon them, to understand the plan that He has for their lives and our life. And we talk about Jeremiah 29:11 all the time as a family, and our journey that's gone through both my wife and I. Just the fact that we even met was purely God, and wasn't our doing. She was in Florida, I was in North Carolina. We met for a couple of minutes and didn't see each other for another year and a half, and got married in New York, and off we went. So for the girls, it's about that. It's about just being faithful, being trusting, being a believer, and understanding the gifts, and then more importantly, taking those gifts and doing them for God's will. We talk all the time. It's okay to fail in whatever you do, but it's not okay to quit. And they fight through that every day. They're both athletes and academic folks and great kids, and work hard. And we're all going to stumble. We're all going to trip. We're all going to fail. But it's not okay to quit.
So yeah, that's a great statement. It's okay to fail. Yeah. It's not okay to quit.
That's right.
That's really, really good. Well, and they're they're great little track stars in cross country. Isn't that right?
Yeah, they play. They do track, cross country. They play basketball, and I like to see it manifest itself through competition sport. And it's obviously been a big part of my life and a big part of my wife's life as well. And when you're running a 2-mile race, as my 7th grader did this year at the state meet, 8 laps around a track against girls that are 5 years older than you, you're going to have some adversity, and you're going to fight through it. And to watch them just continue to fight through, that's the success, right? And it's not about necessarily finishing first all the time or any time. It's about fighting through it and overcoming that adversity and realizing what's inside you and letting that come out. All that great stuff that God has put inside you, and He wants it to come out.
Praise the Lord for that. Hey, now, how did you guys end up living in Huntsville, Alabama?
Yeah,
how did that happen?
So our military journey, my military journey first was 8 years without Angela, and then we met and were married, and we spent the final 18 years together, and we bounced around. So in 18 years of marriage, we had moved 11 times.
Wow.
So we got real good at packing boxes and unpacking boxes, and came to Huntsville for the first time in 2010. Had a short stint here, about 2 years, and then left to go do a couple more assignments, and then returned back in 2017 to do some work for the Army, and did about 5 years in that capacity before I decided it was time to retire. And came to a crossroads in my own life, and obviously we had talked a lot about it, and I got some counsel from other folks as well, mentors, and it was an easy choice, but it was an easy choice once you remove the ego out of the equation, right? So you're a colonel, you've got aspirations. The Army says they want you to continue to serve, but that comes at a price, and it comes at a price of moving your family. It comes at a price of moving teenage girls, yanking them around to a few different schools, and it's an easy choice once you remove the ego and personal desires out of the equation, and you trust in God and you trust in the plan. So we retired, officially in 2022, about 18 months ago, and we're here now.
Well, we're sure glad you're here. And what a great impact your family makes on this community, and thank you for what you do. Let me ask, what was the hardest thing you ever endured at West Point?
Yeah,
what was the hardest thing?
So I think there was a time early on in my days at West Point where they're teaching you everything, and they're breaking you down from the product, your community, your town, your high school, developed you into their mold and into their process. And
They
to
do
their
have to
leadership
break you
model.
down.
They got to break you down, right?
Yeah.
They ask that you kind of kill that person inside of you that you knew, and let's build you back up in this leadership model that's been proven over time, right? So early on, I probably the first 6 months, I didn't have any money, and you get a small amount of money in a cadet account to take care of your toiletries and your anything you need to buy at the store or what have you. So I knew I had a low balance. So I called my mother and I said, hey, can you transfer some money into my account so that I can buy some toothpaste and some razors and a couple other things.
Right,
So,
stuff. That's
normal stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think I had $5.32 in the account at the time.
Wow.
And I went up there and I wrote a check. Right? It was pre-ATM cards and those kind of things, pre-cash for us. And I wrote a check for $7.51. Now, my mother was supposed to put the money in the account, and she forgot. So she forgot that day. And I got a call from from our senior officer at the time. He called me in. He said, hey, son, you just bounced a check. And he said, financial discipline is a part of being a professional, and you need to learn that. I said, yes, sir, it'll never happen again. He said, no, I understand, but you're going to get some discipline for that. And,
Wow.
and my discipline for that was what we called walking area tours, which was dressing up in your full dress uniform on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, going out for an inspection with your rifle and your hat and your brass and your shoe shine, and then getting inspected, making sure it's the standard, and spending the rest of the time till 6 p.m. walking back and forth in between two concrete buildings with the rifle on your shoulder. And then you did it
From what time to what time?
So from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then the next day, Saturday afternoon, between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. And that was 5 hours of walking. I was given 15 hours of discipline, so 3 weekends for bouncing a check for $2.
That's your mama.
So that was a rude awakening. But as far as the normal physical stuff, it was fine. I mean, the best part about that place is you're going through tough stuff, but you're going through it with your friends, and you're going through it with people that you build these bonds with. And actually, two days ago, I just talked to my roommate from West Point, senior. He lives in Charlotte, and just called him up and see how he was doing. And those are lifelong relationships and bonds that are forged forever. So it's great stuff.
And you make a great point about that, because the brotherhood that you come up with going through adversity.
That's
like
right.
that. And what happened to you was not fair. However, it happened.
That's right.
That's one of the things that I think we as a nation, as a society, we have such a victim mentality about everything. This happened to me. This happened. Sometimes it just does.
That's right.
It's something, because what happened to you? That's a good little story.
That's another lesson for the kids, right? It's not what happens to you; it's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. And how you persevere. And I wasn't happy about it, and it was cold when I was doing that stuff, but that's okay. I learned I never bounce a check again.
Yeah, I just want y'all to know I never have liked discipline, but it is a necessary component.
It is.
For sure. We used to, back in my days in college playing football, and they used to make us wrestle. And I've told the story at church, but we had a great big guy named Hamlin. I'll call him that because, that's his name. And but he was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And just a tough, great wrestler. And I remember one day they said, Dees, you and Hamlin get in the middle of the ring, and y'all going to get it on, and let's see which one of y'all's toughest. And I said, Coach, he is. We already know that. Did you ever go to an Army-Navy football game?
I did, yeah. So as a cadet, you have to go to Army-Navy every year. And we actually had some unique Army-Navies, our stretch of time. In 1992, it was in Philadelphia. It was the coldest I've ever been outside. It was so cold that the polish on your shoes froze and had flaked off. So you shine your shoes in the morning.
Wow.
And that thin layer of polish had frozen and come off. So if you're ever watching an Army-Navy game and you see the cadets, they're allowed to wear their black knit cap, then it's a really cold out. So anyway, we were trailing the whole game, and we had a furious fourth quarter comeback, and a friend of mine kicked a 49-yard field goal to win by a point. Sophomore year, Navy had a short field goal to win by 1, and they missed it. So we had won by 2. And junior year, we won by 1 point. And then even senior year, we won by 1 point. So we were a class that won 4-0. And as the legend goes at West Point, if you're a win 4, you go to war type of class. So, we won 4, and we certainly went to war multiple times.
How about that?
Yeah.
That is neat. What advice would you give to young people today? You're a man that God has used in a great way, and has accomplished great things. So, if you were speaking to, I don't know, a class of juniors in high school boys, and girls, what would you say?
I think it's important first and foremost to define what success is for you. Right? My success, how I defined it, was a certain way, and it's carried me through my path. But society tends to try to dictate what success should be and shouldn't be, and it's very different for every person. You can talk about education, you can talk about athletics, you can talk about serving the community, you can talk about church, whatever the case may be. What does success look like for you, right? That's the first and foremost. Then, and 2, are you willing to do the work that's required to achieve that success? You may not get the success. Success may not be guaranteed, but are you willing to put the work in overall? Because as you put the work in and as you open doors for your life, that's what I went to West Point, because they said, hey, it's going to open a bunch of doors and you're going to have all these opportunities, and that's great. And once those doors are open, you have to start closing them as you get older in life, because you're restricted within your career, within your family, within whatever the case may be. So define the success, understand and be willing to put the work in to get there. And then as you get older, it's about managing your time. And then most importantly, and I learned this through the military, I learned it through being a test pilot, I learned it through being in the Pentagon and some tough meetings, is be comfortable in an uncomfortable environment. Learn how to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, because you're going to be uncomfortable. And those that are willing to accept that and challenge that are those that usually are the most successful.
Well, in your case, you were an outstanding young man, had it together, and were selected to go to West Point. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big, big deal. But through the years, there's been several times when I've dealt with a 18-year-old boy or something like that, and they've been a little unruly or whatever it is. And oftentimes I've said, you just need to go join the Army.
Yeah.
What's the old thing? I've heard it so many times. I'm tired of being around my parents. All they do is tell me what to do. Well, go join the Army. And they'll really tell you what to do.
That's right.
But I do think that, and you know what? And so many times I'll see him 2 years later, boy, and it's yes sir, and you can just see. And again, we're all sinners,
sure,
and we all mess up and stuff like that. But to watch the becoming of men and women, for the women that are in the military, I just that's always been something that's been I've sent a lot of guys that way.
Absolutely, it's very powerful, right? And you see it through my journey. You saw it through my journey as a cadet, and certain things I didn't want to do. Right, I didn't want to go in the gas chamber and take your mask off and start to have that tear gas, just to give you confidence in what that mask can do for you. Wow. Or in the water survival training where they put you underwater for a while and kind of control drowning for a little bit. Now they've got divers and other things, but when you get through that stuff and you get through those fears, you just become a stronger person, mentally and physically.
Well, my brother, I appreciate you coming and being with us today so much. I think the world of you, and really appreciate it. I also appreciate your Christian faith, that you love the Lord, that you serve the Lord, your family serves the Lord, and it's been great. So I just thank you so much for taking some time to be here with us today, and Godspeed and God bless you in every endeavor that you have in life.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Pal. And thank you all for joining with us today. We certainly appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to the next time. God be with you.